That is the sound of one of the premier guitarists of all time, Oklahoman Charlie Christian. In a short life of just 25 years, Charlie Christian forever impacted the world of music. Charlie Christian was born in 1916 in Texas, but at the age of 2, his family moved to Oklahoma City. He followed in the musical tradition of his older brothers and father and learned to play the trumpet before he was 10. By 12, he had switched to the guitar, making his own crude instrument from cigar boxes in a manual training class. Charlie Christian attended Douglas High School and learned his music on the Deep Deuce, or Northeast 2nd Street, an incubator for many of the nation's jazz greats. In the 1930s, he played string bass with the Alphonso Trent Band. In a 1978 interview, Charles' father, Clarence Christian, said that at around 1931, he took guitarist Bigfoot Ralph Hamilton and began secretly schooling the younger Charles on jazz. They taught him to solo on 3 songs, Rose Room, Tea for Two, and Sweet Georgia Brown. When the time was right, they took him to one of the many after-hour jam sessions along the Deep Deuce. By 1936, he was traveling the Midwest with various bands, and in 1939, Charlie was in Los Angeles, where John Hammond arranged an audition for Charlie with his brother-in-law, Benny Goodman. Goodman had a reputation for hiring black musicians, Lionel Hampton on vibraphones among them. In a 1940 interview for Metronome magazine, Charlie said that Goodman was not impressed with the audition. He was playing an acoustic guitar. But that night, Hammond took Goodman to a jazz club where Charles was performing. An unhappy Goodman asked Charlie to play Rose Room, feeling certain that Christian wouldn't know it. He did. He had been playing it for years. On October 2, 1939, Rose Room became one of the first studio tunes recorded by Charlie Christian after he joined the Benny Goodman Sextet. Over the next 3 years, Charlie transformed the electric guitar from being used as a rhythm instrument to a lead instrument. He helped create a genre of jazz that became known as bebop. He worked with another young jazz guitarist, Barney Kessel, a fellow Oklahoman from Muskogee. Kessel later became one of the foremost jazz guitarists following Charlie's death. In 3 short years, he elevated the electric guitar to the position in modern music that it holds now. In the summer of 1941, while touring in the Midwest, he began showing severe signs of tuberculosis. He died on March 2, 1942 in New York at the age of 25. Even though he recorded for only 3 years, his influence has been felt by generations of musicians. He was inducted into the Downbeat Magazine Jazz Hall of Fame in 1966 and in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990 in the Roots of Rock and Roll. For many years, guitar collectors wondered what happened to the Gibson ES-250 that Charlie was holding in nearly all the photos taken during his last years. Gibson only manufactured about 70 of that model. Finally, in 2002, a guitar collector and expert in Utah saw an ad in a magazine for a Gibson ES-250. He inquired, and when checking the serial number on that guitar with records from the Gibson factory, he knew that he had found the long-missing Charlie Christian guitar. That very guitar is now on display at the Oklahoma History Center, Northeast 23rd Street, just east of the state capitol in Oklahoma City.